Hey, what's up? My name is Sebastian Steudtner. I'm a professional big wave surfer, and this is my catch-up. Well, it's a long story. So I always had a passion for water since I was a little boy. When I just was able to walk, I walked myself to the edge of a pool and jumped in, and I was diving. I didn't know how to swim. I didn't know how to keep myself on the surface, but I was diving. I was having fun. And there's a story that my sister likes to tell me because she thought I was drowning. She's a bit older than me. And she called my dad and said, "Hey, Sebastian's drowning, help him," and like, alarm. And he jumped in after me and pulled me out. Thought he rescued me. And I completely freaked out and snapped, and I was so mad that he pulled me out because I was enjoying just diving. So I always had this natural connection, and kind of water was always, I was always drawn to water. And in Nuremberg, it's, just as a reference point, it's one of the cities furthest away from the German Sea. And the German Sea is not known for great waves. So I was very, very far away from having waves or having the possibility to surf. But I always enjoyed skateboarding, BMX, as a little boy rollerblading, being outdoors and being in water. So when I discovered surfing at the age of 9 on a family vacation in France, it was kind of like I found what I was looking for, action sport in water. And it was like anyone that has surfed, just a miracle experience for me, gliding on the board. I had this little bodyboard, a B-Max. And I was very small, so I was able to stand on it, and just the feeling of riding the first wave is, yeah, it stuck to me, and I could never forget it. I mean, I came home from this vacation and I wanted to be a surfer. And I started looking for ways to become a surfer, but there wasn't any. I wasn't going on vacation to the ocean anymore. I was stuck in Germany and Austria, so I decided I will be a surfer, but subconsciously. It wasn't like I have a plan. So I started windsurfing, because windsurfing was the only way to be close to the feeling of surfing. On the lakes around Nuremberg, sometimes you could windsurf. And there was a TV show on German TV, which was called Against the Wind, and it was this kind of like a soap opera about windsurfers that were always getting involved in crime and like solving crime, and things were exploding, and they were like these, yeah, like really cheap soap opera, and they became my heroes because it was like action and windsurfing. And when I was 13, and I wasn't really happy with being in Nuremberg. I had trouble in school. I always kind of felt what I wanted wasn't there. So at 13, I read this surfing magazine, and there's an article about a school in Hawaii, which it was sold as a school. It actually was the backyard of the parents of some professional windsurfers. And a German guy went there and came back as a professional windsurfer. So when I read that magazine, I was like, I'm going there. And that's really where I made my first decision of consequence and of taking responsibility for my own path, of saying, okay, I'm gonna quit school and I'm moving to Hawaii, and I'm doing that. Well, I started windsurfing on the lake, and the school in Hawaii was a windsurfing school. So naturally I took the form of surfing that I learned at home, and I was windsurfing in waves. I wasn't doing the racing or like the jumping in flat water. I was doing proper wave sailing. That's how I was introduced. But at the same time, I learned there was a big wave in Hawaii, which obviously I knew through magazines, but I saw it breaking for the first time in 2001, which was the year that I arrived in Hawaii. And I saw Jaws, Pe'ahi, breaking really big for the first time. And right away that drew me. So I had the idea or the concept, okay, I'm a windsurfer, I'm going to be a professional windsurfer. I was pretty talented, I had sponsors very early. After a few months I learned everything really quickly. But then I saw the biggest wave breaking, and then my focus was like, one there. Windsurfing and jet skiing. Like, you have to know how to operate a jet ski really well. You have to know how to read waves really early, which as a traditional surfer, you don't. And you have to know how to read the wave as it breaks really well, which as a windsurfer, you don't, in a sense of the difference of speed of the surfboard and the positioning that you put yourself on a wave. So if you know how to windsurf, you know how to read a wave really early. If you know how to surf, you know how to read a wave when it's critical and breaking. And I think that's where the two sports, if you know how to do both, you will be a good toe surfer. If I had to tell you two things that I loved my entire life, it's water and speed. Anything with water and speed, I'm in it. Yeah, and as you said, like Hawaii, Maui was the epicenter of, and the place where windsurfing and a lot of the water sports, kiting, stand-up paddling, hydrofoil surfing. I think Maui is a place where water sports were developed and people had the creative mindset, and there was a culture, or is a culture, of trial and error, R&D. There's a lot of shapers, a lot of factories, small factories that like to explore, and it's the wind, waves, quality and a consistency gives you an R&D center basically, and you have a lot of people, a lot of watermen that are cross sports, not just specialized in one area of surfing. So. Well, I was annoying everyone around me, asking questions about bigger surfing. What do you think, how long you gotta be able to hold your breath? What do you think, how it is to wipe out? What kind of board do you think you have to use? And I didn't know any bigger surfers, so I couldn't ask a bigger surfer the questions that I was asking everyone around me. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Nelson Armitage, who is the head of a big native Hawaiian family. And he was a big wave surfer when he was younger, and at the time that I met him, he was teaching his sons to be big wave surfers. And he was really open to teaching me and to letting me be part of the group of people that that surfed with him and surfed with his family. And through him, I got the introduction to toe surfing, to traditional big wave surfing, and the entire culture of reading the ocean, respecting the ocean, learning about the ocean, and then about the culture of surfing from Hawaii. So when Nazar came to the picture, was kind of this unexplored area, right? This unexplored wave that didn't have any infrastructure. There was 2 jet skis in Nazar when I arrived, which was the city's jet skis of the North Canyon project. That's it. There was nobody else. Zero safety. It wasn't even, at the start, there wasn't even a lifeguard on the beach. It was like, something happens, it happens. Kind of like the very, very early days in Hawaii And even in Hawaii, there was always lifeguards on the beach because they had lifeguards for a long time already and knew the necessity of it. So it was kind of like a restart. Everything was new. It was first time in Europe. The wave is completely different than any other wave in the world. It's a beach break, so you have to think differently. You don't have the visual. You don't see as much as you would see in Hawaii or in Tahiti or in other big waves. And you depend on a different team. And when I arrived, I realized really quick that I had to build a team and I had to do more than just be a surfer, but I also had to take responsibility for my team, for safety, for other areas which you wouldn't think of as a surfer normally. So I started toad surfing the beginning of 2004, and I surfed Jaws on a giant day the first time in December 2004, so a very short training period. And I fell on my first wave, or I took the wrong line on my first wave, and the wave caught me, and I got pounded, and it was really, I was so terrified about how it would be, like so terrified that when it happened, I was like, oh, that's it, that was it, kind of, you know. Victor Lopez came with his rescue ring and put me on the sled, and I was, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Off we went, and I think the approach which was taught to me by Nelson and Dane Kealoha was one of the uncles that taught me Bobo Pokoa. It was always to be respectful to the ocean. It was always to never ever underestimate or overestimate your skills, and always make sure your equipment is right, always make sure you're healthy, you're trained. And I think I naturally have you could call it like a military mindset, kind of. Like you always, you commit to things, you're responsible about things, but you go all the way. And I had a wipeout, so I started training really early. The culture of the family of Nelson was, they were all athletes in different sports, boxing, wrestling, athletics. So I was submerged in a place full of competition, full of sports and healthy mindset. And I think that translated to naturally just approaching, okay, there's a wipeout, there's a possibility of being underwater, let's train. Let's run rocks under the water, let's go swim, let's go do sprints, sand sprints, let's ride the bike, let's go to the gym, let's box, let's do all the things, all the other things you do when you grow up there. And the wipeouts itself, to me, I think nothing changed. The more you prepared, the better the outcome will be. And at that time, it was just the jet ski and yourself and a little vest. I had my life jacket was a Costco wakeboarding life jacket, which I used all the way from 2005 till 2015 in Nazar. I retired it in 2015. It was a good one. I think my approach was always the same. Yeah. But sorry for the long answer. About the wave that held me down for such a long time. It was actually the opposite. So I got held down for almost a minute, more than a minute and a half, like a minute and almost 40 seconds. It was 3 waves that held me down, and then the last wave kind of released me on the bottom, so I had to swim my way up. And I remember opening my eyes, and it was so bright, like I just woke up from like a deep sleep, and then opened my eyes, and it was late afternoon. I was looking in the sun, and I felt that I was in control of my emotions and in control of. I wasn't scared. I wasn't panicking. I had obviously I was running out of air, but I felt like I was fine. And the mindset and the approach, I think, was taught to me by Nelson and by my natural way of dealing with dangerous situations. Yeah, so I've partnered up with Porsche almost 3 years ago now. And we looked into areas that Porsche engineering could help me bring progression into big wave surfing. And two parts which were very clear that we need to change was, one is the board, because the waves that we surf are not the biggest waves that are out there. It's just the biggest waves that we're getting into. And I have really fast boards, and I've studied fast boards and put all my time into making hundreds of prototypes to go through to have the fastest and the most controllable boards. And I kind of hit a plateau by not understanding the board more than what we do traditionally. And Porsche engineering has other ways of looking at the board, which is more from how you would approach a car, doing a lot more simulation. We went to the wind tunnel and studied at the speeds that we're going, what is the aerodynamic drag, for example, on the body and the board, and it's significant. And that was a very interesting experience, because I went huge wind tunnel, right? Like, you're in there by yourself. It's 20-meter high, 30, 40 meters wide, and it's this big black hole in front of you. You're strapped in, and then there's like the siren, and then the wind starts coming. And you're staring into this black hole, and there's like more and more and more and more. And I could actually identify through the wind speed. I could guess without seeing the wind speed when it was a speed that I have on the wave, by just how the wetsuit felt, how my face felt. And it was about 80, 85 kilometers an hour. In that session, we identified that the aerodynamic drag plays a big role, especially when you roll into the wave, the part where you need to be fully flat on the board, and the updraft, the upwind of the wave kind of slows you down, and the wave is sucking up and you're kind of losing speed. So we created an aerodynamic feature which makes the nose of the board come down. To have more downforce, we created this front spoiler, we call it an aero edge, which the studies in the wind tunnel showed us when you roll into the wave, or when you're going about 80, 75, 80, 85 kilometers an hour, the wind that's hitting the top of the nose of the board and your foot, especially your foot, causes a lot of aerodynamic drag. So what this does is it splits the wind before it hits the leg and the foot, and makes it move around. And then it comes back here to leave the board. We make waves, wir machen Welle. Fazer uma onda is a project or a foundation that I started with my sister in 2017. And it basically brings kids, underprivileged kids, to surf in Germany. And what we do is we take the kids from schools or projects that take care of them, foster homes, and etc. And we train them for 10 months to then surf. And a lot of the kids don't even know how to swim. Some kids have never been out of the country. Some have, now we have Ukrainian refugees, or kids without parents. And the one thing with all the projects and with everything that I've seen, how a lot of time young people, not even underprivileged, but in general, young people are treated, is always to try and limit them, to tell them it's not possible, to tell them you have to be careful, you should not take a risk, you should not believe in your dreams, you should just, and wir machen Welle in German, or we make waves, is the opposite of a phrase that is used a lot in German, which is mach mal nicht so eine Welle, don't make such a wave. So I reverse it and say, no, we make waves. And that's kind of what the project stands for. We teach them to believe in themselves through surfing and through the process of being fully landlocked, never been in the ocean, to learning how to swim, within 10 months surfing, they understand the potential of what they actually can do, and something that's so far away for them is all of a sudden reality. And that process teaches them to believe in themselves, to have more social skills, and to have more self-worth, to know, to understand themselves better. And it brings me a lot of joy because I like progression. I like positivity. I like the. I like when people do well. Like it's something that I have in me that I like to share.